It's about I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State. Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers. He's out. No, he's safe.
Phoenix has the ball, and a pinnacle ball throws it down.
DeBrincat gets it back to Gossett, Barron across, now King.
They score! Raymond!
Big five, Johnson and throw, and it's caught by St. Brown for a first down.
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Welcome one, welcome all. I gotta say, going into this week's show, I was like, what am I going to talk about? There's not a lot of news. There's not really, football's over, like officially. Like there's not really any football news going on. What do I talk about? And I was like, okay, I know there's this Four Nation thing and the All-Star break in the NBA. And I got to tell you, I was pleasantly surprised by one of them. We'll talk about that during the show. You probably already know what it is. I mean, based on the title, just look at the title of the show. Look down there in this general area. That's what it is. That's what it is. Anyway, welcome to the show. It's probably not going to be, a very long show because it is a bit of a lackluster week here in sports, but we're going to make best of what we got. So let's just jump right into it. All right. So, if you are maybe a little bit out of the sports media landscape, maybe you're just a football fan, you probably didn't really take into account much of what was happening this past week and weekend. The NBA All-Star break happened this weekend, All-Star weekend, skills competition, 3-point, slam dunk, All-Star game, all that fun stuff. That was all this weekend. Now, the NHL typically also does its All-Star break around the same time. This year, there's no All-Star game. Why is that? Well, because instead, we get the Four Nations face-off. Now, I'm going to start with the NBA All-Star break. Let's start with the recap of the week and what we see featured in these two events. In the NBA All-Star break, you get the dunk contest, won by, hold on. I'm going to be honest. I know Mac McClung is basically a dunk contest legend at this point. I don't even know what team he's on. Like, genuine, is he on I think he's on Orlando at this point. You wouldn't know it. You want to know why? Because he's not playing for Orlando, really. He might have a roster spot, or it might be on the G League team, but he's not really on the team. Realistically. So you get the dunk contest won by basically a nobody. No disrespect to Mr. McClung. He could probably he could destroy me if I ever played him 1v1. It'd be very embarrassing. And he's an incredible athlete. All the guys that are in the NBA, even in the G League, are incredible athletes. Then you got the All-Star games themselves. Now, the teams, back in my olden days of, 3-4 years ago, probably a little bit more than that. It used to be you had the Eastern, I guess it's your East, but it's mine. You had the Eastern Conference and you had the Western Conference. And teams, believe it or not, they belonged to these particular conferences. And so you had teams, relatively speaking, that were on the East, or relatively speaking, that were on the West. I don't remember which one I started with. And those would make up the two rosters. It would be coached by some, top coach in the league at that point, similar to like the All-Star game in baseball or what have you. But instead, the NBA said, you know what? People don't want that. Nobody wants East versus West, your conference versus my conference. Nobody wants that, right? Instead, what they want is they want Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny the Jet Smith, Charles Barkley, and Candace Parker to put together a bunch of teams with some vague theme attached to it. That's what people want. Oh, and by the way, the teams are also coached by said media personalities. So, in case you wanted a showcase of, I don't know, who are some of the, Joe Mazzulla, or in the West, I guess you have the Denver Nuggets coach whose name escapes me, Malone. Is that right? I think it's Mike Malone. Yeah, in case you wanted those guys, to be, coaching an all-star unit. Instead, you got Shaq just being a big kid. Now, I love Shaq. I mean, I think he's hysterical. I think he's a great cultural figure. But a little lackluster than what it once was or what it could possibly be. And then, to make matters even worse, you even have players, and it's not just borderline players. It's not just, players that nobody really cares about. It's LeBron James opting out of the game right, the day of, by the way. Adam Silver, by the way, all-star team, I'm not going to play because my foot hurts. I understand LeBron James is 100 years old, and he's too many all-star games in a row. It's done irrevocable damage to his physical health, despite the fact that he's still, incredibly fit to be an all-star. You can't just opt out of the all-star game the day of the game and not have people, mock you for that. Like, that is the softest, most pathetic. And what makes it even worse? No, they couldn't find a replacement. If somebody opts out of the Pro Bowl, for example, or opts out of the All-Star game because, I don't know, they injure themselves or whatever. Like, for whatever reason, you give an opportunity to a guy who is borderline, right? You give an opportunity. I don't know who it would be necessarily in the All-Star game. Maybe a Domantas Sabonis. I don't know. Like, somebody like that. You give that guy an opportunity to be able to play in the All-Star game, to be able to, show the world his talents, right? You just rip that all away when you decide, oh, I'm just going to show up without a uniform and also show up the day of the game. Like, what is this? It's not you're not there to hang out, right? The whole point is that you're supposed to be there as like a player. Like, the only reason you're there is because of your performances as a player, not because people personally like you. Even though they might personally like you, that's not the reason that you're there. Okay? That should go without saying, but maybe LeBron does need to be told that. And then also there's the 3-point contest. I don't even know who won the 3-point contest. Does anybody know? Does anybody care? Now, all of that is to say, NBA All-Star break, it hasn't been good in a while, and I'm beating a dead horse by dogging on the game. However, what many people told me is that, well, you just can't fix it. It's unfixable. All-Star game, the players make too much money. They don't, it's an exhibition game, so they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it because life is so hard for them, I guess. And then, cutscene to the NHL 4-Nation Tournament. All right? So here's the 4-Nation Tournament. You got national pride. You got Finland. You got Sweden. You got the United States of America. And you got Canada. All right? 3 hockey hotbeds at the very... Obviously, Russia not included for, I suppose, various reasons. I would have liked to see Russia. I'm not in charge of this thing. Whatever. You still got three countries that bring a lot of hockey players. Hockey's pretty big in all 3 of those countries. But you add that with the, all of the best players in the league. It's not just, the reserves. It's not just, junior players or college players. It's the best players in the NHL. They are playing, and they're playing like it's the final game of their life. Like, you got the Kachuk brothers beating the heck out of the Canadians. You got the Finnish last night, or maybe yesterday afternoon. You got the Finland players. The Finns were down 4-0 or 3-0. I don't remember what it was. And then in the third period, there's like 2 minutes to go, and they bring it to 1 goal, and you're like, oh my gosh, are they actually going to come back? Because all the momentum is swinging. Oh my gosh, what's going on? And all of that just encapsulated in, oh my gosh, these players care. They want to, not only do they want to put on a good show for, us, the fans, they want to put on a good show for their country. They want to put on a good show because they want to play well, because they have a little bit of pride in how they perform in these games. The thing that grinds my gears is that these NBA players They go out there. It's a national televised event. The nation, theoretically, is watching. And you want to go out there and just lackadaisical, just go through the mode. Oh, my God. Oh, he just drove right past me. Dude, the only reason you're there is because your performance has been so well to this point that the NBA, the fans, whomever, want to see you play. Like, these things are fan voted. So, presumably, fans are voting because they would like to see said player in the All-Star game. And the other thing is, there is basically no real benefit in both cases, okay? If Canada ends up winning the Four Nations tournament, who cares, all right? Ultimately. I really won't care. If the U.S. wins, I'll be happy, obviously. In the same way that Canadians would probably be happy if they win. But, you know, it's all ultimately, it doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. You know, I'm a Red Wings fan. I'm not a hockey fan, necessarily. But in the NBA, the same thing applies. There's no benefit to winning the All-Star game. There's no benefit to winning the dunk contest. Other than it's just a cool thing to do. But these players don't care. And allegedly, it's because they make too much money. And let me tell you something. If the problem is that they're making too much money, then why is it that the solution that many people seem to offer, including presumably some of the players, is to add monetary incentives to the All-Star game? First of all, there are monetary incentives. These players get bonuses, and many of their contracts include bonuses based on getting into the All-Star game or being an All-Star. So that's already out the table. They definitely have no problem, adding money onto it. And furthermore, let's assume that it actually does. Let's assume that if you paid them $100,000 extra dollars, or that probably had to be $1 million extra dollars, then they try. Okay. If it takes an extra $1 million for them to try, then what do we have to say about the decades and decades of All-Star games where the guys were making significantly less money, not only on just a pure, like the actual number, but inflation-wise, they were just making less money. But they were trying, just like, we're advocating for. And furthermore, regardless of whether or not, if it takes you an extra $1 million to go out there and actually perform well, don't go to the game. Don't go. You don't deserve the All-Star. Because you clearly you don't have enough self-respect to go out there and perform in front of fans and perform as a representative of your team. I mean, in the case of some of these players, obviously I'm not going to dog on Cade. He can't control his playing time, and he played pretty well. Like, you don't think it means something for the fans of teams that don't get a whole lot of all-star players, that their favorite player from their favorite team is there? It meant a lot to me as a Pistons fan to know that Cade Cunningham was there. Now, I wish he would have gotten a lot more playing time, but unfortunately, the games last like 3 seconds. So, look, all of this is to say, the Four Nations tournament gets it right. They get all these players, all the best players. They all want to play. They all feel like they are representing something that's bigger than themselves. And it's not just for show. It's not just for, going to San Francisco and having a party and getting a stupid looking jersey. All right. It's something that they actually want to win. Obviously. I mean, I think you would be foolish if you thought that, Team Canada would not be pissed if they don't win this game on Thursday. So how do you fix it if you're the NBA? Well, here's the thing. And this is not my original idea, and I'm sure I'm not the first person either way to articulate this idea. In a lot of ways, the game of basketball has become much more international, especially than when I was growing up. When I was growing up, if you got a European player in the draft, his name was Darko Milicic, and he was one of the worst draft busts in the history of the league. As time has gone, some of the best players in the league have become those European players. The Giannis's, the Lukas, the Jokic's, even to some extent the Joel Embiid, although he played in college, so it's a little more vague. And also, I hate Joel Embiid, so I'm going to slander him as much as I can. But either way, you have a lot of international players. Victor Wembanyama, 2 years ago, first overall pick. Even, I think this past year, the first overall pick was, what is it, Basilis or whatever? I don't even know. because that draft is so terrible. But a lot of guys are international. So, NBA, why not do USA versus the world? All right. I mean, we already saw what was it? I don't even know what it was called. The FIBA, is that what it's called? The international basketball tournament where Team USA went in and, you had Steph Curry, LeBron, and Kevin Durant and all them. Why not do something like that, but in the NBA instead of an All-Star break? You have United States, I don't know exactly who specifically would be on the team at this point, but you get 12 of the best players from the United States, and you put them all on a team, and then you get 12 of the best players from the greater international community. I guess we can be pretty vague because we don't want to limit it. Like, we're not just going to do, Finland or something. There's not enough Finns playing basketball, but you get, players from Europe, basically. So you got a team of Luka, of Giannis, of Jokic, of, pick your international players. And you got the team of the Americans where you got, literally just throwing names out. I'm not saying necessarily any of these guys deserve it, but, Cade, Shai, LeBron, Steph, I don't know. You get those guys in, and you have, I don't know, maybe even do a best of 7. Honestly. Like, you could do a week, roughly, like about a week of games. So you got, you're off pretty much since, well, I guess last week you had some games, but you start it on the Friday. So game 1 is on Friday. Game 2 is on Sunday. Game 3, and then then maybe you just do best of 4. I don't know. You can figure it out. All right. You can figure out the number. You can figure out the spacing of the games. You could do that. And I think that would be a heck of a lot more entertaining. You could even, how about this? You could even have it be routine, like 1 year it's hosted in the United States, another year it's hosted in Europe, then the next year it's hosted in the United States, and then so on and so forth. And it's, it's still basically an all-star game in a sense. You're seeing the best players, in this case, in the world, literally. Obviously, you see the best players in the world anyway, but like, you're seeing them play against each other. And there's something about representing your country or representing the Euros. I know it's a little bit different because you're not with Europe. Europe is not a country, it's a continent. So it's not exactly the same thing for them. But for the US, it just seems to unlock something. I mean, I didn't really watch the basketball the international basketball tournament, but as far as highlights went, it just seemed like the guys playing for the Team USA, they were given a heck of a lot more effort than they ever gave in an All-Star game. So, look, maybe this is the solution. Maybe this is what we have to do to get these guys to perform in an All-Star game. Or maybe we just got to just say, you know what? You guys don't deserve the All-Star game. You're not getting bonuses. We're not even going to do the All-Star game. We'll vote on who the All-Stars are at the end of the season. And then you got your All-Stars, your All-NBAs, and so on. And then you go from there. Because to me, it's like you can't have the All-Star game benefits, i.e. the bonuses, the break, all that, but then not give the All-Star game effort. So if this does end up happening, which I really think it should, because it just seems like that's the direction that the sport is going, the All-Star game is going to be push is going to come to shove. You're either going to have to get rid of the All-Star game entirely, somehow force the players to try, or do something entirely different. And I think the NHL's got it absolutely right, and I can't believe that I have to say that to the NBA, that they have less media savviness, less, ability to put together a good, entertaining product than the NHL. So hopefully Team USA beats the doors off of Canada on Thursday, because I got to tell you, I'm probably as hyped for that as for when the NHL actually comes back on Saturday. Like, that's what's crazy. Like, I am all in on this NHL stuff. So let me know what you guys think. I think it's a good idea, but they don't come to me. So Michigan State right now in a dogfight with Purdue here, down just 3, 6.5 to go in the first half. They were up a little bit there as I started the show. We're going to talk about them in just a second, just because we got a lot of, we got some stuff to talk about. And I mean, hey, look, it's the All-Star break weekend. What do you want from me, guys? I can't control the news cycle. But how about this? Because this was actually related to something that did come out today, this morning, actually, specifically. So, all right, this didn't come out this morning, but we got a report about it because it was Tigers related, it was baseball related. We got to talk some baseball, actually. Yeah, believe it or not, it is February. Spring training games start this Saturday. I don't know if it's the only spring training games that start this Saturday. There might be some that start earlier, but the Tigers start on Saturday. Anyway, Alex Bregman, for those of you who had been following at all the MLB offseason, he was the one big free agent that seemingly the Tigers were in on for a very long time. And over the weekend, I believe it was over the weekend, or maybe late last week, it finally comes out that he has signed. However, he did not sign with the Tigers. He signed with the Boston Red Sox. Now, the thing about it is, when I initially saw this report, I said, okay, 3 years, $120 million a year. Okay, what did the Tigers offer? Because if they didn't offer that, that seems kind of whack. According to Evan Petzold, the Tigers offered a 6-year contract worth a little over $170 million with, some deferred money. But the Red Sox offers the opt-out after each season. So basically, he takes this contract, and if he goes off and the team sucks, he's going to leave. Heck, if he goes off and the team is good, he might still leave because he might want more money. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to yell and scream about how the Tigers should have gotten Bregman, because I think with the deal that Boston had, I could definitely have seen the Tigers making that sort of a deal. The reason I'm not going to yell and scream about it is because while as much as I like Alex Bregman, the player, if you're offering him 6 years and he says no, he don't want to be here. All right. Either he thinks he can make way more than what you are offering over the 6 years, or alternatively, he didn't want to be there. So now that Bregman is off the table, in a way, the actual potential maneuvering and thought process between building this team for Scott Harris and AJ Hinch actually kind of arrives. You got a couple of options. Option number one is to just kind of run it back at third base in the infield. With Vierling, the kids, i.e. Jace Young, Hao-Yu Lee, if he manages to just storm up and have a really good spring or something like that. I don't know. I doubt he's going to come up. They like to bring guys through the actual levels of the minors before they bring them up to the majors. But either way, you run it back with something of a hodgepodge of guys. Option number two, which is far more intriguing. I don't know why I did one twice. Option number two, you make a trade. Now, who do you make a trade for, Mike? Well, I'm glad you asked, you wise and oh so observant audience member. I got a few names, and one name got added this morning, so we'll get to it. Actually, I got 5 total names. One of them is not a third baseman, but still would be a positive addition to the offense. And we're going to talk each of these guys' contract situation as well as just the player himself. So the first option, and probably the most well-known, Nolan Arenado. Nolan Arenado is 33 years old, but he's still a really good third baseman. He's only a couple of years removed from an All-Star, as well as a Gold Glove Silver Slugger back in 2022. He's been on a little bit of the decline since that 2022 season, which was probably close to his peak. He was third in MVP voting. He had 7 WAR. He was a very good player. And last year, he was fine. He wasn't amazing. He wasn't terrible. He was fine. 272 average, 101 OPS, a little above league average there, and just 16 homers and 71 ribbies. It's going to be kind of surprising to hear, but those numbers really aren't all that different from Matt Vierling. Roughly. Matt Vierling, to his credit, I believe had a little bit more WAR, but that's because he played the outfield as well, so he contributed in some more different ways. Either way, Arenado is a veteran of the league. He's one of the better players of the past decade or so. Would he be the best hitter on your team if you brought him in? No, probably not. I mean, with Riley Green and Parker Meadows and Kerry Carpenter, those three guys presumably taking a step forward, hopefully, given they've been relatively consistent, although Parker Meadows just started really terribly last year and then since then just went off. We'll see if they continue to develop at that rate. Riley Green was an all-star, so you expect to see him to continue to be better. Anyway, Arenado, however, is going to cost you. Now, the situation with him is he's got another 2 years, not counting this year. So this year you're going to owe him $21 million, and then but each year after it gets less and less. It becomes $16 million in 26, $15 million in 27, and then he's a free agent at the age of 36, where he's probably not signing anywhere for anything long term. So the benefits of an Arenado, it's relatively short term. He's a veteran, so he can be a leader in the clubhouse. He still has some decent offensive upside, an above average hitter. He could be an all-star. He could be, at the very least, just an above average hitter to help your offense, which desperately needs some more help. Unless you just have guys that just, exceed the expectations offensively. But, he's not going to blow you away. If you trade for Nolan Arenado, I don't think anybody's going to immediately be like, oh my gosh, you're a World Series contender now. No, I don't think so. Option number 2. Now, this one I really like. And it's probably not going to happen, but you never know unless you try. And it's a name that I'm surprised nobody else has mentioned. It is one Yandy Diaz of the Tampa Bay Rays. Yandy Diaz is similar age to Arenado. I believe they're both 33. Last year, he was a really solid hitter. A 116 OPS, 281 average. He had 14 homers, so a little bit less than Arenado, but he had 65 ribbies. He was 1.6 WAR, obviously not hugely contributive in that metric, but his stats are pretty good. And as far as his contract goes, he'd be a much cheaper option. This year, he'd be making only $10 million. Then next year is a club option for $12 million, and then he's a free agent. So you'd be, cut off from him pretty quickly. Now, would the Rays be willing to move along from him? I'm not sure. And also, trading with the Rays is a very risky maneuver because I've lived my whole life. They almost never lose trades. They do sometimes. I understand, but I don't know. They got some soothsayers or something. They got somebody who sees the future. They got Marty McFly. I don't know. Marty McFly with the sports book. Something is afoot in Tampa Bay. They don't have a stadium though, so maybe he wants to get out of there. Either way, again, he could play third base. I'm not saying he's a Gold Glover, but last year, he's just a couple of years removed from a Silver Slug season back in 23. It was a first-time All-Star. He's definitely got that capability in him. Last year was less than ideal in terms of his stats, at least compared to the year prior where he led the league in batting average. But he's still got some in him. He is similar to Arenado. He's not young, but he would be a leader. He'd be a veteran, and he could fill a hole. I'd certainly feel a lot more comfortable being able to put somebody like him at third base on a relatively consistent manner than, I don't know, maybe gambling on a Jace Young or gambling even really on a Matt Vierling, who is not naturally a third baseman. He's just not. The other name that I want to throw in there is another name that I really don't see mentioned a lot either. And it is one Ryan McMahon. Good Irish boy out of Colorado. I don't know what it is about Colorado Rockies because he had Arenado, who's a St. Louis Cardinal right now, but he played for the Rockies. Ryan McMahon is the youngest of the bunch so far. I'll keep you guys on the edge of your seat. Ryan McMahon, last year at his first All-Star season, he was a 2.5 WAR player, 242 average, 95 OPS plus. He's going to be 30. He's already 30 years old, or he just turned 30 years old. So he's, not, super old. You'd say he's probably closer to his peak than an Arenado or a Yandy Diaz. And he's a solid player. He had 20 home runs in Colorado, so take that what you will. And obviously a lot of his stats are affected by the fact that he's playing in Colorado. So will he be necessarily as big of an offensive piece as he was in Colorado? Maybe not. So while I'm not jumping up and down at the prospect of potentially getting him, I'm not, throwing it out entirely. He's 30 years old. Maybe a change of scenery helps him out. He's just coming off an all-star season, so maybe you get something decent out of him. And again, if he's at least just a stopgap, it's not a big deal because, again, you're really not paying out a whole lot of money with him, okay? $12 million and then a couple more seasons, and then he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. So, yeah, I think it's at the very least, an option. I can't imagine he's going to cost you a whole lot. So, again, a potential option. And then before we get to this last one, because the last one just broke. I know this is not a third baseman, but I do want to mention him because he plays for the Oakland A's, and they naturally trade everybody at some point. Brent Rooker. Brent Rooker, this I would love. All right. Now, I know, again, it's not a third baseman, so it's not like maybe you can teach him how to play third base, but he's primarily an outfielder DH, but he's a 5-WAR player, almost a 300 average last year, almost had 40 bombs, 165 OPS. This guy is a stud. All right. He's a very good player. Last year, he finished 10th in the MVP at a Silver Slug year. He's a couple of years removed from an all-star season with Oakland. He's not going to want to play for the Sacramento A's. All right. He is probably going to want out, I would imagine. He's 30 years old, so he's right there in his prime, but he wouldn't really cost you a whole lot. Right now, he's making just $4 million. All right. So in the short term, he's not costing you a whole lot. In the long term, he might cost you a little bit, but you'd be stuck on the hook for him, arbitration potentially barring, till about 2031. And again, this is all looking at his contract here. Some of the contract stuff I'm not totally well versed in, so if I'm getting any of this wrong, take with it with a grain of salt. But he is a stud. Full stop. No doubt about it. He's one of the better players in the American League. I think if you put him on your team, he very well could be your best hitter. Now, does that mean you're going to have the best offense? Not necessarily. But he's a very good player. And I think if you're looking for the trade market, if you're looking for a guy to add to your offense, I think Brent Rooker is an option. Maybe at the trade deadline, when injuries start to, take hold and or you're just trying to find and fill the holes that you might have thought that maybe you didn't have, but maybe you actually do. And the Oakland A's are always selling. That's just the way the A's are. And now, for the grand finale of it all, the big name that I simply did not expect to believe had any chance of being available. It is one Vladimir Guerrero. I'm totally butchering his name because I'm typing it up. Jr. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. First of all, he fits what you're looking for. He's a first and or third baseman. Throw him at third. I don't care about his defense. You want to know why I don't care about his defense? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because he got a 166 OPS last year with a 6-WAR, 30 bombs, 323 average. And, oh, by the way, he is 25 years old. Yeah. I'll take him. I'll take Vladimir Guerrero, like right now. Scott Harris. If you got to get rid of McGonigal or Clark, go get him. Because this guy is a stud. Like, he's already right now one of the best players in the league, and he's 25 years old. All right? I don't want to hear about your Max Clark fantasies or your Jace Young dreams. All right. You could take those dreams and you could just put them over here. Don't throw them out. Just put them over here. And then let me show you a 4-time All-Star. Has been an All-Star since 2021. 6th in the MVP last year. Silver Slugger. And he's Vladimir Guerrero Jr., guys. I don't know. If you don't know who he is, turn on a Toronto Blue Jays game because he's basically their entire team. And the fact that they couldn't get him a deal tells me, okay, for one, Toronto is either being incredibly cheap because right now he's worth $28 million. So he's going to ask for more than that, naturally. $20.5 million is what he's getting paid this year. Going into next year, he will be an unrestricted free agent. So if you do trade for him, okay, that means you're going to have to pay him. All right. He's not going to want to go anywhere. And Toronto is probably not going to want to have him go anywhere without, a huge sale and then you having to pay him in some way. All right. So again, do I care that I have to pay him? No. I'll give him a 10-year deal. I don't care. He's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Like, this is, and I know there may not necessarily be the exact same player, but just bear with me for a second. This is very similar to when the Marlins decided to trade Miguel Cabrera. A stud player who had already proven himself. Obviously, in Miguel Cabrera's case, he had won a World Series, so there was a little different. But you got a guy who's going to be entering his prime years, okay? He's not theoretically going to get worse. If anything, he's going to get better as time gets. You go out there and you've assembled what is one of the best farm systems in baseball, right? Over just the past 2 years, the past couple of drafts, many of the rankings and all that. You got a few top 100 prospects. You got a lot of options, all right, that you can package together to go get Vlad Guerrero Jr. And, barring Toronto not being absurd and asking for, Riley Green and Tarek Skubal, because no, we'd like to be able to field a team around Vlad Guerrero, please. But no. Outside of basically that sort of a deal, you go out and do it. If all they're asking for is Max Clark, Kevin McGonigal, Jace Young, and Trey Sweeney, bye. Bye. I don't care. And you know what? And this is probably not as likely, and it's just me, the inner Tiger fan, just trying to figure out a way to get this player off my team. But if you can somehow sweeten this deal by saying, okay, we'll give you a better end prospect. We'll even give you somebody, bear with me. We'll even give you somebody like Parker Meadows if you take Javi Baez. If you could get rid of Javi Baez, I don't care. Again, barring Green or Skubal, if you can get rid of Javi Baez and get Vladimir Guerrero Jr., do you think I will care that Parker Meadows is not on this team? I'll give you the answer. No, I will not care because it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And you figure out the rest of your problems, in trades in the regular season, in free agency signings that you got to make in the future. You figure it all out, but you would have a core of players of Riley Green, Vladimir Guerrero, and Tarek Skubal as your ace pitcher. So you got top two headliner guys, Green and Guerrero. Then you got your ace in Tarek Skubal, and you got some of those ancillary guys. The Colt Keats, the Wencio Perez's of the world, the guys that maybe they're not superstars, but they're glue pieces. They might be able to get you some solid hits at times. Matt Vierling is another one of these guys. I gotta tell you, all right, I didn't think that Vladimir Guerrero was going to be available really ever, because you would think that a team would not be stupid enough to not just give him exactly what he wants. But you know what? Stupid teams do stupid things. So if you could take advantage of that stupidity, absolutely you should go for it. So yeah, right now I am all in on going to get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Relatively speaking, whatever it costs. Again, you're not getting Green, you're not getting Skubal. Those two guys are out. Pretty much everybody else, I'm fine with. So Tigers offseason just got a whole lot more interesting, and potentially the trade deadline. It's a whole lot more interesting. So we'll talk more Tigers as the spring training and as the regular season gets closer and closer. But man, I was just so excited to hear that today. Like that's crazy. Just looking at his projected numbers here on Baseball Reference, just for people who might be like, well, I don't know about. Okay. This is obviously just projection. So, take for what you will. They project him to have 160 hits, 26 home runs, 87 RBIs, 291 average, and 861 OPS. Yes, please. Let me have that. I'll take whatever it takes to get that player on my baseball team, please. That would be super. Oh man. Talking about baseball, I gotta tell you guys. Talking about baseball just gets me so excited. I love baseball. Let me just go on this short rant here as the Michigan State game is at the half with a lead. Okay. I love football. It's my number one sport, but I love baseball. Baseball is just so much fun. I will nerd out about baseball stats. All right, that is the one sport where you can get me to look at the advanced stats and be able to articulate them in a way that I don't like that I can understand. I love baseball, and I'm so looking forward to being able to watch baseball games again. I don't know when the first spring training broadcast is going to be, but I will hopefully be watching because I want to hear Jason Benetti speak. Just listening to the sultry sounds of the mellifluous tones of Jason Benetti telling me how great my baseball team is. So, yeah. Now, all right. I guess we have a little bit of time left. Well, a little bit of time. We've only been live for 45 minutes. We got to finish the show. Obviously, again, it's a shorter show, but we still have stuff to talk about. So, right now, Michigan State is up against Purdue 33-31. I really hope that by the time this video goes up, that doesn't turn out to be a highly embarrassing stat that I'm pointing out, but you know what? It is what it is. Michigan State this weekend played the Illinois Fighting Illini on the road. And I got to tell you, for most of that game, I was like, oh, great. We just look bad. Is this really all falling apart? You know, Michigan State had a crazy win streak going there. They were undefeated in the month of December and the month of January. You thought, okay, here we go. Tom Izzo's back. We're gonna run the table. We're gonna be able to try to win the Big Ten. Then you lose to Indiana, then you lose to USC. Then you lose to UCLA. And you lose to Indiana at home. You're like, oh my gosh, here we go. You managed to get a comeback win over Oregon at home. And you're like, all right, this Illinois game, this is going to be the make or break kind of thing. This is going to be, if you lose this game, you're not totally out of it, but you make it all the more hard for yourself. And Michigan State went out there. And in the first half, it was very ugly. And I was like, all right, well, so much for my alma mater giving me any sports worthwhile. I can only rely, apparently, on Michigan State for laughs and sadness. And not good laughs. More like, you know, the Joker kind of laughs. Like you're just laughing because you can't cry. But then, all of a sudden, I'm listening to the game on the radio. I was driving home from a friend's place. I'm listening to the mellifluous tones of the "he got it" guy. You know who I'm talking about. And Michigan State is slowly but surely inching their way back, and then it's tied, and then they're up, and then oh my gosh, they're up 4. And I get back, and there's about 2 minutes left in the game. I'm like, all right, you know, or something. I don't know how many minutes. There's probably a little bit more than 2 minutes. I get back, I get the game on, and then I got to hear Gus Johnson, and I'm like, oh great, Gus Johnson is going to be if they don't win this game, and I have to hear Gus Johnson, it's going to be a mess. But Illinois decided to do something that I have never seen a basketball team do in my entire life. They decided to see how long they could go without making a basket. And my friends, not only did they not make a basket, they lost points. I've never seen that. I've never in my life seen a team end the game like 5 minutes to go through the game. And they have, in that 5 minutes, -2 points. How does that happen? How does that happen, Illinois? Now, all of that is sort of illustrating that while MSU's struggling to shoot the three, they've just all year they've really never had a good 3-point shooter. They got Jace Richardson and Trey Holloman, who are pretty good, but they're probably the only two at least okay shooters you have on this team. And Akins. Akins can also occasionally shoot, although frankly in the last few games he's been ice cold. But Michigan State is finding a way to win. And it's similar, and I'm not going to talk about it right now in any in-depth. It's similar kind of to how Asar Thompson for the Pistons, a guy that I have criticized very harshly, mostly because of his position in the draft, and I'm upset about not getting Victor Wembanyama. But he started to turn it on recently. And you ask yourself, okay, well, why? You look at some of the shooting numbers for Michigan State, and you're like, okay, well, they're still shooting like, bottom 10 in all of college basketball. They're one of the worst Big Ten shooting teams. How are they winning games? You play to your strength. All right. What is Michigan State very good at doing? Very good at getting rebounds, and they're very good at fast break points and drawing fouls and the lob passes and getting points from everybody in the lineup, including guys off the bench. So, let's say Jaden Akins has a bad first half. That's fine because you got guys like Cohen Carr or Jackson Kohler or Trey Holloman or Jeremy Fears if he wants to ever turn it on at some point because he's also kind of struggled. But you have guys who in any given moment can, start to put it together. The team is deep. And it's one of the things that Tom Izzo has finally done right is that he has a team where, it's not Cassius Winston running the show, although granted, those teams did have a lot of really good players as well, but it's not Cassius Winston being the sole, scorer for you. It's a lot of guys playing a lot of different roles and playing them all pretty well. And, you look at a guy like Jackson Kohler, who last year really didn't play all that much because he was hurt. You're waiting for him to really start to go off. And this year, especially the past couple of games, he has absolutely torn it up. And he's been one of the more fun players to watch on the team. He's hitting threes. He's getting lobs. He's, driving to the basket. He's blocking shot. He's doing everything. We got exciting whites on Michigan State. I can't believe it. I thought only the Eagles. I thought only they could get exciting whites with Cooper DeJean. No, it must be something about green teams. But the problem is this. Michigan State, schedule-wise, has had a very front-loaded schedule, to say the least, or at least back-loaded schedule. I don't know what the right terminology is. The back of their schedule is very difficult, okay? Going into this game against Purdue, which is at home, they will then have a back-to-back road trip, one of which is on the road against Michigan. Now, you're probably going to get a decent amount of travel from your fans there. It's going to be a good matchup. Both teams are good. Usually, Michigan State fans travel to that game when the team is good. Then you got Maryland on the road. Probably not a major concern. Then you got Wisconsin, Iowa on the road. Again, I don't anticipate that being that bad. But Wisconsin, definitely a team to watch out for. And you end the year with Michigan at home. In other words, you don't have any back-to-back home games for the rest of the season. In fact, you haven't had a back-to-back home game since Oregon, Indiana. And that was the last time you ever would. I don't know who makes the schedule for these things, but it just seems a little ridiculous that we don't even end the year with any more back-to-back homes. I mean, come on. But it is what it is. So, if Michigan State right now, if they get the win tonight, I believe they would take possession of that first place spot in the Big Ten. Let me actually, Big Ten basketball standing. Let's pull up, where's the ESPN? Here we go. Okay, this is not all, I don't want all conference. I want the Big Ten. There we go. So, yeah, right now, Michigan leads it by a game. They got 12. They're 12-2 on the year in the conference. Michigan State is 11-3. So even if Michigan State does get the win, they'd be just a half a game back of Michigan. So they would need Michigan to lose in between the time that they play them on Friday. That Friday night game, that Fox game, I got to tip hats off to Fox. They really have managed to get it right in terms of putting this game as a Friday night game. Going into this year, I really didn't have that high of expectations for Michigan State basketball. I definitely didn't really have any expectations for Michigan basketball, but right now, it's going to be a top 15 matchup between Michigan and Michigan State. And I love it. I love it. When both the teams are good, the rivalry's better. When both the teams are good, the game is more fun. So it's going to be a tough stretch. Going into this before this, let's say before the USC game. Once the winning streak ended and you get into the month of February, Michigan State has had a schedule of, let's just actually take a look here. So going into this game, all except for one of your opponents is ranked. Now, rankings in basketball matter significantly less than in football, but they do still matter. they're not totally insignificant. So you're going to have a number 13 team, Purdue. Right now, you're up. Finish the job. Then you got Michigan on the road. Then you got Maryland on the road. 2 ranked teams on the road. Wisconsin at home. Ranked opponent. Iowa on the road. I don't even know if anybody's going to be watching that game except for me. And then, of course, you end the season with Michigan. Tom Izzo, I would be remiss without mentioning, he's now the winningest coach in Big Ten history. So congrats, Tom Izzo. He's my favorite. Probably my favorite basketball coach in any capacity. Not pro, college, the whole shebang. He's a one of one. But I think in order for his legacy, in my mind, to be cemented in a positive light, he's got to kind of end it on top. I don't know how many more years of coaching we really have with Tom, realistically. I would be shocked if he's coaching in 2030. I don't even know how old he would be in 2030. But if he can get at least one more Big Ten title, at least one more Final Four, at least even, God willing, one more national title, that would further cement Tom Izzo in the legacy. I mean, he's already cemented, but in my mind, you can't just win one national title really early on and then never win it again and then end in, kind of disgraceful, like just not winning much of anything. Since that Final Four team back in 2019, Michigan State hoops has not really been all that good. This is about the most productive that Michigan State hoops has been since then. And they're definitely capable of winning the Big Ten. Absolutely. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. If you go down this stretch here, let's see, if you manage to win, including this game, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you win 4 out of the 6, and one of them is against Michigan, that probably puts you, it depends on how well other teams do, but that probably could do it. Obviously you'd like to win 6 out of 6, but realistically, you're going to probably drop a game. I don't know which of these games you're going to drop. Maybe you drop Michigan on the road. Maybe you drop Wisconsin at home. I don't know. You might drop this game that you got. So, yes, Michigan State is capable of winning the Big Ten. But are they capable of a little bit more? Who knows? Michigan State teams, sometimes it's kind of better for them to be underrated in a way. It's kind of better for them to be a little under the radar. They seem to do better in the tournament. They seem to do better in general when they're just kind of on the peripheries. So, it's a team to watch out for. And you know what? In a post-football world, in a world where the Red Wings, while they're in the playoffs, maybe they're not the most, maybe they're not going to make that big of a deep run, or in the world of spring training baseball, Michigan State hoops might be your one shot to see a really special thing happen. Maybe a shot to see a banner be risen or a trophy be raised. So, yeah, that's all I got, I guess. I don't have anything else to add. Jackson Kohler is the man. That's all. That's the other thing I just want to say as well. I mean, look at it. It's 7 boards a game. My God, 7 boards a game. Jackson Kohler, what a man. Anyway, that's all I got. All right. That's basically the show. Not basically, that is the show. Crazy. I really didn't have a whole lot to talk about, guys. I sorry. It was a short show, but there wasn't a whole lot of news. It's funny though, like I'm literally just going to be breaking up this show into, I might not do 3 clips, honestly. I might do 1 or 2 clips. I don't because that would just, the whole show would be the 3 clips. So we'll see. We'll see what I end up doing. Either way, I do appreciate anybody for stopping by, listening in, hanging out. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed. Hit the like button as well. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you guys think of any of the topics or any new topic. I don't know. Ask me about what I think the Red Wings are going to do on Saturday against the Wild. I hope they score goals. That would be ideal. So with that, I'm going to head out. I'm not sure entirely how many clips there's going to be, but there's going to be at least 1 clip. We'll clip something out. Either way, I'll see you all next week. However, actually, this is tentative, but I want to point it out. I am thinking about hypothetically, broadcasting the Michigan State basketball game this Friday. It's a hypothetical. It's not set in stone. But keep an eye out for that. If you don't see it by like Thursday evening or by Thursday evening, then it's probably not going to happen. But if you do see it, could be a good time. Little Michigan State, little Big Ten action on a Friday night. How about it? So again, with that, that's all I got. Have a great rest of your night, everybody, and I will see you at the earliest, or I guess I will see you for sure next Tuesday. How about that? Have a good night and go green. See you later. Goodbye.